Good afternoon and welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. Africa, largely ignored in a US-China trade war that could roil economies worldwide, is quietly piecing together the world's largest free trade zone. Once it's passed, all 55 nations recognized as part of the African Union, it would cover a market of 1.2 billion people with a combined GDP of $2.5 trillion. This is a technocratic agreement, said Ronak Gopaldas of Signal Risk. It's aspirational in nature, and while the direction is positive, translating what has been agreed by the technocrats and the policymakers into stuff that has a material impact on the ease and the cost of doing business and fosters more integrated markets remains to be seen. I participated in an Al Jazeera Inside Story with Martine Dennis, and I think we covered most of the open questions to do with the free trade agreement, about which I'm bullish and believe it's a no-brainer. Billionaire Agarwal has a warning for Zambia. Anil Agarwal, the Indian billionaire owner of Vedanta Resources Limited, said mining companies are likely to stop operating in Zambia as a result of a state-owned firm seeking to liquidate his copper mining business there. The current position can only hurt the country's hard-earned democracy and investor-friendly status, Agarwal said in a government newspaper on Wednesday. I see a lot of mining companies looking to exit Zambia despite there being huge potential to develop downstream industries. Zambia, I've written about since last year, it's in desperate trouble. Fixed income investors have already fled the country's bonds. Yields on Zambia's notes, which are due in 2024, surged to a record of 20.8% on Wednesday. That's higher than any country besides Venezuela, which is in default, which about sums it up. My weekend piece, I said markets across the world shivered in May. Some caught a fever, and some on the periphery have become as delirious as victims of cerebral malaria. In that same article, I said the periphery will get smashed as we are seeing it unfold in Lusaka. There's an op-ed, Zambia, when you get to the bottom of the hole, stop digging. Is this a sign that an increasingly desperate government, starved of resources to pay the salaries of a burgeoning civil service and of cash to meet the international debt it has rung up in record time, is thinking of nationalizing the mines? After all, Zambia has been here before, and with devastating consequences the last time around. In 2005, Zambia's debt had largely been forgiven. Today, however, the country is once more in it, up to its eyeballs. And the government has no plan to stop spending. External debt at the end of 2018 has increased to $10.1 billion, of which about $3 billion is in Eurobonds, $1.8 billion multilateral, and $2.9 billion from China, mainly Exim Bank. This article is asking, it's hard to read the president's endgame, if there is one. The next election in 2021 might offer prospects for change, but by then Zambia will be in so deep that changing the political and economic trajectory will be much more difficult. Just look at Zimbabwe. Emmanuel Macron's France bets on Startup Africa to invest 2 billion euros into African startups over the next 3 years in a bid to unlock the continent's untapped potential. It's called Choose Africa. Africa is the continent of entrepreneurs, said the organizers. Pledged 2.5 billion euro investment into 10,000 small and medium-sized companies by 2022 to drive growth. The Choose Africa initiative is based on the speech that President Macron gave in Ouagadougou, explains Damien Broad, head of private equity at ProParco. There is a growing number of startups and entrepreneurs that have innovative ideas and are trying innovative business models that offer financial and digital services that are extremely important for the development of the continent. Emmanuel Macron has previously said, "I'm from a generation for whom Nelson Mandela is one of the best political memories. I visited Station F, which is the world's largest startup incubator." Macron has previously said, "I want France to be a startup nation, a nation that thinks and moves like a startup." In December 2017, when he first came to power, I wrote quite a hagiographic piece, and I said Emmanuel Macron gives France back its mojo. Of course, the yellow vests then struck back on the street, but the street is always a test for every French leader that I know of. 6 heads of state are expected at Etienne Tshisekedi's funeral in Kinshasa, according to the presidency. WTB Klaus says it's Sassou, Laurencio, Lungu, Conde, Kagame, and Nasingbe. In terms of visible continental support, things are looking up from January, when only Kenyatta attended the inauguration. South African Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, and this is a most excellent decision, has been returned as the president trims his cabinet. He said he was reducing a bloated cabinet to 28 posts from 36 and merging ministries to pursue a capable, efficient and ethical government, as he announced his picks on Wednesday. After a decade of looting and economic stagnation under Mr. Zuma, the ANC won its lowest ever parliamentary majority, 57.5%. A few months ago, at the time when the Nigerian election was being held, President Ramaphosa quoted Ben Okri, "We dream of a new politics that will renew the world under their weary, suspicious gaze. There's always a new way, a better way that's not been tried before." On balance, he's had to juggle 2 things. He reappointed David Mabuza, who's been implicated in a string of scandals, as his deputy. That reflects the political trade-offs he's had to make. The Rand extended gains last at 14.63. He's really tried cleaning up, said Sethulego Matabezi, who's at the University of the Free State. Ramaphosa can only perform his cleanup if he's not sabotaged by his own party, she said. This is an intricate balancing act. If you go to Rich Wrap-Ups, you'll get the names of all the ministers. He named a trimmed-down cabinet that is 50% women, making it Africa's 3rd gender-balanced after Ethiopia and Rwanda. Just not long ago, South Africa's GDP per capita was higher than the BRIC average. Take a look at this fascinating chart. That's from Phumlani Majosi. South African all shares up 4.29%. Egyptian pound, the best performing currency in the world, 16.789. Egypt stock market up 7.2% year to date. Nigeria all share minus 0.39% year to date. Ghana stock exchange down 2.21% year to date. Data by the Central Bank of Kenya shows that in the 12 months to April 2019, petroleum product imports stood at $3.41 billion versus $2.996 billion in the corresponding period in 2018. Diesel consumption went up by 55,520 metric tons, or 3%. Consumption of superpetrol rose 12%. As I've written before severally, our biggest single expense item is crude oil. The price has been rising since December, and therefore we've got to keep an eye on that. Nairobi all shares minus 0.39% year to date. These are the top performing stocks at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Longhorn first, Trans-Century second, Safaricom third. The laggards, Kenya Airways, Mumia Sugar, BAT and Sasini. It was a pleasure interviewing the Konza Tech CEO John Tanui yesterday on Metropole. We'll be publishing that imminently. He is the CEO of Konza City and painted a very bright picture of sunlit uplands. Well worth listening to what he's saying. Thank you for stopping by.